Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H event space. Today we are getting creative with some light mods hosted by Westcott, and Pro Light Mods, a product of Westcott. Now, Mr. James Quantz Jr. is joining us today. James, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. I don't want to interrupt you this quickly into this, but this is pretty surreal, Derek, to be here talking with B&H, who I guess back in maybe late 90s, early 2000s, I would come up for the Photo Plus show that PDN used to put on, and it was always a must stop at the B&H store, which is like the Willy Wonka store of, for photographers, with everything moving in the ceiling and, all that going on, and just the, overwhelming, the sensory overload when you walk in. I mean, it's like the clouds parting and the angels singing and all that, and just, all the gear everywhere. And to be here, doing an event with B&H is, it's like a pinch me type of moment. So
I
happy to
love
be
it.
here.
That's great to hear. Look, we're honored to have you on. I always judge, maybe I shouldn't. I don't judge. I judge by the setup. And I'm like, when I first got on with a call with James, just to tell everybody, I'm like, man, you're ready to go. We don't need to talk. Your setup looks great. It's like nothing instills confidence from a professional, like somebody who takes their job seriously. And that's why we have you here, James. So I want to welcome you to the platform and kind of just lead it with that. I think the great thing about what we're doing today is you have a wide swath of professional experience, but a lot of stuff we're talking about today applies to the everyday photographer that's getting started. We're taking that professional experience, we're taking that professional gear and the inspiration from all the stuff that professionals, that you use in the professional arena, and it can apply to high school sports, to little league, to people who are getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and to me, having done this for so long, that at the end of the day, to me, it comes down to the experience everyone has on set or wherever you are with your camera, and how you're capturing these photos, and how everyone feels during the event, and then how everyone feels after the event. And that's kind of where, to me, if you can kind of create the buzz on set, and then that carries on to where when everyone leaves there, they're still talking about you, and they tell their friends, or, in my case, maybe other agencies, other creative directors or producers, this guy was so much fun to work with, and the work was fantastic. And, it's kind of like over delivering, under promising type of thing. And I just kind of feel like that's where I've been trying to direct things recently, and then trying to share that. And you talk about the setup here, and it's all thanks to when everything kind of shut down there for a couple of years, and then forcing me to do something, get on the YouTube, and trying to find my way through all that space, and then kind of building out something here that looks somewhat presentable. So,
Looks great. We're gonna have you back for a streaming setup workshop. You did it right,
and
man.
that I've actually simplified that too. So I'm kind of of the school, keep it simple if you can, and just to where everything is streamlined, and you're just giving that experience at the end of the day that people remember. And that's kind of, where all this has come from.
I love it. Well, before you were a YouTube star, you were just a photographer just like us. You were a regular mortal. Now you've ascended to the heights of YouTube stardom. But
You're
no,
using that very loosely, very, very loosely.
where did it begin, man? I mean, back before we were streaming and teaching, and you were just a guy with a camera and a dream. How did the origin story start for you? When did you get interested in photography, and more specifically the sports thing?
Well, I mean, I can take it. I'll keep this somewhat short, but I could take it all the way back to like high school. And I was on the football team and got hurt and had a camera. And while I couldn't play, I just ended up taking my camera and doing pictures on the sideline. And it was filmed then. And where I went to high school, we had a dark room. So then I was processing the film and did some prints. And then the guys that were doing the school newspaper happened to be in there and saw some of my pictures, hanging on the line there drying, and asked if they could use some of those for the upcoming edition. And, they did. And then they were like, would you mind doing this throughout the season? And we would just use your photos in the paper. And so that was kind of how that kind of stumbled into that. But it was something I had a camera. I always enjoyed that type of thing. And I look back then, and the goal was, I would see these pictures in my head, and then it was a matter of trying to build the skill set to where I could capture, create or get close to what it was I was seeing in my head. And that's kind of started the journey to, I guess taking it. I kept it as a hobby for a long time, and then just got to a point where I made the jump and went kind of back to school and studied studio lighting and all that kind of stuff. And then jumped out of there into assisting photographers in studios. And we're shooting 4x5 film, and basically I'm glad I was there from the transition of film to digital, because that was, a huge marker in this industry back in the day. And to kind of make that transition and kind of see the differences, not just in the medium, but then how, things evolved on set to where, before you would shoot film, you would shoot a Polaroid, get approval from the creative directors and agency people that were on set, and then shoot rolls of film that would go to the lab, and then you'd have to wait for the film to come back from the lab. And then if you needed to reshoot, you would go from there using, the film that you got back. And at the end of the day, the photographer had a lot more control, as the kind of all being, I guess, on the set. And now with digital, where you're shooting usually into a computer, a monitor, everyone's watching every little pixel that comes across. It's just totally transitioned from one end to the other. And I can go back, I actually digitech on a couple of those early digital shoots, and I was in a tent because the photographer didn't want anyone else to see the screen except for me and then him. He would come in and take a look and then come back out. And just because they're just wary of being coached too much on set. But we've left those days, way back. And that's, with these videos and stuff like that, I just kind of feel like it's, going in a rapid direction with social media and all that. Things have really gone 180 from those old school days. And it's about embracing that, or, finding something else to do at this point.
Yeah. I mean, if we were having this conversation 20 years ago, you'd be stitching hot lights together and
Yeah.
burning everything in the surrounding
Right,
area
right. Well, just the
around.
technology of strobes and cameras. And I was just looking at one of my, and I'll probably put it out on my YouTube channel, maybe even later this week. Was shocked at looking at my first video that I just kind of put out as a marketing piece back in, I think, 2012. And so many things have changed: the lights, the modifiers it was using, the camera, how I was actually shooting, just the whole, it's a list too long to go through right here, but I kind of think it might be interesting to talk about that in a video just on my channel coming up. But yeah, things have, just in the last 5 years, things have really changed a lot. So
Yeah, definitely. I want to dive into some stuff in a minute. That's kind of like the inspiration that led to why we're here today, pro light mods, and what is the pro light mod, and why do we have it? And in talking about, what exactly you were trying, how did you get the inspiration? What's the story behind, and for those of you that don't know what the pro light mod is, we're gonna just wait just a minute. We're gonna show you. We don't want to give away the secret too soon, but people have definitely seen it and they know the style of image if they don't know the particular product. But what led to the idea of the pro light mods?
So, and this will go back to, I guess, 2020, when everything was stopped in the world for a while, and I had some time on social media to kind of scroll around, and I've met some really fantastic photographers over social media. And during that time, I just was looking for inspiration and came across some images that my buddy John Gress had done with this backdrop. And with the line, there was like a black foam core with lines that were cut out and they were being backlit. And he likes to do, these really nice, more fashion oriented type shoots, and where, I was kind of looking at it as coming across in more of a sports realm type of thing. And so we were messaging back and forth, and he kind of told me how he had kind of rigged it together. And then I took what he had started and kind of fleshed it out a little bit more, and, built this backdrop. Basically, it was 4 feet by 8 feet panels of 1/2 inch foam core that you gaff tape together. You get these strips cut out, put diffusion material on the back, and then backlight it. And so, while that was probably one of my first shoots. Like afterwards, I just had this thing put together and really wanted to start with a bang, just trying to, get back into shooting and get people excited about doing photography again. Although we were wearing masks and all that stuff, which we won't go into, but those pictures just generated so much commentary, DMs and people sending me emails, how do you do this? And just on and on and on. And, you know, just telling people they're gonna have to go to a sign store and you got to find this really thick foam core, and then you have to have probably a company cut it for you. You know, I mean, it's a real ordeal to do, and it's not portable. And so that's where, in my mind, I was trying to think of ways to bring that same type of backlighting philosophy, that look, the dramatic type look, and how to make that easier to pull off, make it portable, and that sort of thing. And so I just happened to have done a photo shoot with Atlanta Falcons some years ago, and they were filming the hype video, the pregame hype video, and they had two of these Maxi Brute light banks with 12,000-watt bulbs on them, and we're basically using those as set pieces, and putting the players in front of them and having lighten up the letters and all this kind of cool stuff. So I shot some plates of that, took what I was doing on set, and then photoshopped it together to where it was like this image with a player in front of those Maxi Brute light banks. And I've got it on the wall here in my studio, and I was just pacing back and forth with this churning in my head, and just looked over at that, and something, it just kind of clicked. So I went straight to Michael's Crafts and got some black foam core, cut circles in it really, really roughly, gaff taped it to whatever softbox I had in here, and put on a football helmet, set the self timer on my camera, and took a picture and sent it over to the head of creative for the university here I do a lot of sports work with. And he was like, what is that? And, what's going on there? That looks great. And so then I kind of went from there and had a seamstress locally kind of sew me something together, and then put it together for the first photo shoot here. And just seeing the reaction of the guys, and just on set, and knowing that these guys have had their photos, taken tons of times. And so a lot of times these athletes will look at these photo shoots, these media photo shoots, as obligations that they got to go to and have to attend, and want to get them over with as soon as possible. And so that's my goal too, is, when I talk about at the beginning, to kind of set up this experience for everyone there to where they really look forward to it, really enjoy it. And this was a part of that. And so we had done the boards before, that year before, so they were already kind of hyped up. And that was kind of going back to that, we were supposed to do that with maybe the top 20 players on the team, just because it was a whole different setup, and we would bring it in and do it. But once the guys saw like two of the other players get those photos, they were lined up and waiting, like after basically time. They hung out in their uniforms and stuff just to get pictures in that backdrop. And then that's when it really started getting me thinking. And then the same thing happened with the Pro Light mods on these soft boxes, and the guys are all lined up, one after the other, to get in front of the camera and get those pictures, and then put them out on their socials. And and then a week later you see them all as their pictures on their Instagram and Twitter and stuff, that that's when you got something kind of cooking, when those types of guys. And so that was, I guess that's kind of the short version of it all. But and that's kind of where it led me. And then getting them, having to figure out how to get them made and all that kind of stuff, and then teaming up through that process after I'd kind of gotten the ball going, teaming up with Westcott, and now having it as a much more slimlined, I guess, process. Where I'm sitting right now was my packaging department, my shipping and receiving and all that. So I was able to kind of move all that out of here and make some use of this space that I'm in right now. So we've come a long way in a couple of years, and want to keep evolving.
I love that. So I'm gonna play two quick videos, everybody, because James has sent us some BTS stuff, which I think is super cool, and some of the stuff he referenced. So we'll get a little visual cue right now. So we're gonna play one.
Yeah, and visuals, I think, we're in the business of visuals, so that's I think they speak louder than me.
No, definitely. I mean, this right here.
So this is what we're replacing, or trying to replace, doing our best to replace with the Pro Light mods. And you can see this is one of those Maxi Brute type setups, and this would be like the 4x3 design that we have. And you see the stand that thing's on is powered by a generator, and you're looking at 1,000-watt bulbs in each one of those cylinders there. So a lot of power draw there, a lot of heat. It's rigged up in a truck. They didn't even pull it out of the truck. They backed it into the set. And so it was being used right off that truck. And so what we are kind of replicating now is much simpler than the real thing, and trying to get the look as close as possible as well.
Yeah, somebody out there right now missed the first part of that, and they're like, Westcott has lost their mind. No one's buying that. That looks too big. So I want to move into
It
this
comes with a
other.
truck too, though.
Yeah.
You can drive to and from work with your light on the back.
You radiator's not included. You got to provide that on your own.
Right.
We're gonna move to another video here. Let me back out of this one here and go to another video here. And we're gonna see some BTS, and we'll get into some more images. We have a couple images too, but
So that's an example of probably an evolution of that original backdrop, to where one of my clients, the Charlotte Hornets at the time, they saw the results from that backdrop, and then we were able to get it one professionally cut in with the patterns off of their court. And then we put the players in front of that, and it's just ever evolving. So Melo Ball, who was in that video, if anyone knows who he is, I mean, he's been on a reality show since he was probably a young teenager, and has been in front of the camera for so long that a goal of mine would be to get his reaction, like you just saw in that video, where he doesn't, all these guys look at me funny when you ask them to stand like in between those two boards there until they see the results like that. And then I took one frame, pointed to the computer screen, and he looked at it, and then he looked back behind him like, what is this juju going on behind me? It's black magic. And he had that reaction. And then I had two setups that day, and I've got a YouTube video on this too on my channel. But so I had two setups, did that with him there, and then we moved to another setup. But once he saw that and saw the results they were getting, I mean, he had complete confidence in me as a photographer. So that's another thing that, and this type of, these types of images just instill confidence in your talent. And then it just makes everything else so much easier during the day. Because if you work with talent like this in the past, one of the hurdles you have is to gain the confidence of like these athletes that are constantly in front of the cameras and exposed to this type of thing all the time. And they show up guarded to set a good bit of time, unless they have worked with you before. And then you've got to work your way through that guard, just because, he walks out of the arena and people are all over him, that type of thing. So it's just the way these guys live. And having something like this on that shoot day, this is the first time I worked with him, and it was really a cool experience. And so that's just another part of
that's awesome.
having something like this in your kit, in your bag. And that's kind of, when it comes to these types of things, it's not something you're going to use on every shoot, but it is something that, if something's dragging along, it's something easily that you could pull out and use and kind of be creative. And that's kind of where we're trying to work in creating different modifiers for different uses, and where you can build these unique setups that are unique to what you're doing, and get these really super cool results.
So this is like the super advanced version right here of this. So these two go, okay. So this is what you were talking about. This is the setup that kind of inspired the Hornets setup, and the whole idea of really thinking outside the box in terms of lighting and going beyond just like a gobo, or really just taking things to another level.
Yeah, so we took that idea and customized it to the Hornets with their cell pattern that they use on, kind of like the hive that they use on their court and in their logos and all that kind of stuff. So when someone looks at that image of Melo in the Hornets uniform and sees that backdrop, it all kind of makes sense. Plus, I had team color gels behind it, so we're firing teal color through that, and you can see that on his skin tone on the edges there. And then had a key light coming over the top, with then another light for fill to kind of fill out the rest, so you don't, you get the natural skin tone on the front of his face.
And there we go. So again, we're talking inspiration, what inspired the products. It's, we have
some
just various examples. Yeah.
So this is when I'm watching TV or whatever, and something like this comes on, I'm happy about the pause button on TVs now, so I can hit pause and or rewind and go back and take a picture, and this kind of is inspiration to where, you know, ESPN's using this. This is like their first Monday night game that year, and so this is the big build up, and then they've got two of these what they call the Maxi Brute like light banks, and you can see everything that's involved in trying to get those to run, and you see that huge stand underneath and the power sources and all that, and so that's where these are the 3x3 size lights that we're, you know, that we're putting out to replicate that. And then this is another one that I took during a football game here, and this is what led to the setup that I used with the football team this past year, where it was kind of strip lights across the top, and you know, we'll maybe get to those here in a little bit, but yeah, always looking for visual inspiration when I'm out and about. And this was during a game, like pregame here, and just trying to line things up and create these compositions to where you know, you get kind of that dramatic pregame to me in this shot, just, you know, super shallow focus, and you know, he's waiting to go out for the coin toss actually at this point. So just really cool stuff.
Awesome.
And then here's another one where it's Pro Light Mod City in this image. You know, get your wallet out if you want to replicate that one.
Yeah,
So
right.
This
Is
is
the
the
one you were
one
talking
here.
about with
So,
the Falcons shoot?
yeah, so this is the one I was referencing in that origin kind of story, and this is what's on the wall here. And it was, like I said, they were using this for their pregame hype video, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. They had smoke blowing across their indoor facility and doing all this stuff with the cheerleaders and all that, and so in between their kind of setups there, I just asked them if I could come in and take some stills for plates for what we were doing, and that's exactly what I did. And then I took one of the players from my setup and dropped him in and created this composition that then kind of led to what we're doing now. So, and that's kind of another, I guess, lesson when I'm on these photo shoots, these media day photo shoots. Nowadays, they're usually multi-station type events. So when, you know, I guess the rare occurrence when I'm on one of these shoots and I've got some spare time, I always love to go and try to watch what's going on at these other stations and, you know, pick up some things. And, you know, it's just photography, and being a photographer is just an ever evolving science. And the day you stop wanting to learn different things is kind of when you get left behind, is what I feel. So I'm always looking around to see what other people are doing, whether it's video or still type stuff, and where it can kind of cross over, where this day and age, that line is getting more and more blurred.
Definitely. And I think it's inspiring to see, you know, like I said, the professional level, there's such a blur between, you know, you have people who are just putting out some insanely good work at lower levels. It's like, man, we didn't get that. They jammed us into like a school cafeteria on a Saturday in between the baseball season, and you did one group and then you got to hold a bat over your shoulder, and they didn't care how it was. It was like, now it's like kids are sliding into bases and they got like a 4-light setup, and it's insane. So it's cool to see that you're taking these ideas to give a more like the professional stadium feel, and really incorporating those ideas into something that, and it's hard to do it and not be gimmicky. And I want to point that out, because it's so, when you think professional sports, you don't think gimmicky, right? You think professional, you think really top of the game, and they've done it in such a way where it's like, no, this is awesome. It's taken something that has such a cool look and a desirable look and put it on a scale where anybody can do it.
And that's the thing, and that's kind of the joy of it. And these are tools that you can be creative with and do, you know, all kinds of different setups, different things. And this is an example of I guess our latest product, which are the little mini mods that we came out with that go right over reflectors, and they just have an elastic band with some anti-slip rubber on them, and you stick them over. This is a 7-inch reflector. These will go right over the 4-inch reflectors that come with the FJ 400s and other lights like the Godox 8400, the 8600. These will go right over those. And then we've got a larger 11-inch version that'll go over your more deep I guess, what do you call them, deep reflectors,
Mm.
that a lot of guys use outdoors to get, they get that extra power when they want to overpower the sun. But now you can slap these if you got a couple of lights with a couple of extra reflectors. You can put these over and bring them into your frame and create these creative compositions for some of the shots. It just kind of gives you another alternative or another add-on. So if you're selling prints, that type of thing, this is something you could bring in that a lot of people haven't seen before, and just kind of gives that other kind of wow factor, and to be something different than, like you said, putting your bat over your shoulder, that type of thing. You can, bring these in, jack them up a little bit where they look like stadium lights, and bring some smoke in or a little bit of haze, and kind of create an environment. And the joy, and I know we got some other behind the scenes videos, but the real, I guess, joy to this is how they come straight out of camera. So you can just turn your camera around and show whoever you're working with the results without any kind of manipulation, Photoshop, anything. And it's just that wow factor, and people remember that. And this is another use that I know how many NHL photographers we have in the that might be watching this or not. But I learned the hard way. And the first time I worked with an NHL team, I usually would use a beauty dish for my key light. And these plastic face covers, face guards, whatever you call them, I guess the curvature of them, it makes the circle like super circular, whereas like football is more of a, I guess it stretches it out and kind of makes it, if you saw in the Falcons player there, it makes kind of a cool line, if you ask me. But this is a horror story, and it goes like right over one of their eyes. So all you see is the round beauty dish where one of the eyeballs is supposed to be in your frame. And so I ended up using a 1x3 strip box with the ProLight mod on it. And this came to me watching NHL, like on TV. You see the guys on the bench, and you see the lights reflecting in their visors there. And that's exactly what I was trying to do here on set. And then I didn't have to worry about that reflection in his visor. You'll see a lot of guys too. They'll have the hockey guys look down almost so far, because then that reflection kind of goes up a little bit and it doesn't cover their eye, but then they look so unnatural doing that. And I see that all the time. And I've had some other hockey photographers, like for the Canadians and stuff like that, that have reached out when they saw this and knew exactly what I was doing. So that's, and you can do this in reflective helmets. You can put the mods on the side, so then it looks like you have stadium lights reflecting. I've done that as well. So it just kind of depends on your subject, and kind of doing things to be a little bit more creative.
It's awesome. And it's always, I mean, with
And
the technology we have now, everyone's like, oh, I could Photoshop it. And AI's created a whole nother can of worms to open, but there's got to be something to just getting it right in camera and being able to show them, rather than saying, okay, it looks good, but I'm going to add this in. Don't worry about it. Well, I'm guessing when the players and the teams and whoever you have there looking at it and you're shooting tethered and it's up on the screen, it's got to be like, oh, wow, this is great. This is the solution.
Well, yeah, because in years past they've had that issue, and so and usually the creative director's right there on set with me, and they're the ones that have to correct that in post. If I'm delivering subpar images to them, then they're gonna have to figure that out on the back end, or either I'm gonna have to do it before I deliver those images to them, and that's a lot of time, which is money and everything else. And so right there on set, able to do that, the player the player gets to see it too, and he's hyped up about it. Um, and it just works out. It's just solving an issue on set. So, and like I said, the hockey photographers out there know exactly what I'm talking about, and because that is a nightmare. And this actually right here too was fun. This was with the Naval Academy for their Army Navy uniform. I guess this is like 2 years back. And we were in a studio up in New Jersey, not too far from B&H over there, and with an LED wall. And we brought in these to kind of give almost like a spaceship type feel behind our player, where he's supposedly there on the lunar surface with the Earth behind him. And it was a lot of fun. And then to kind of put these out in a professional sense, and have companies like Under Armour, they grab this image and put it out to represent the uniform that they had designed for the Army Navy game. So just to see that these modifiers, being put out, in such a commercial sense like that, was another pinch me kind of moment, like sitting here talking to you at B&H.
It's probably way better than this. This is one of those forgettable moments. I
No,
want to
no,
ask.
this is not.
we're more impressed having you on, James. It's like looking at your body of work. It's like this stuff. I mean, what undress these lights for a minute if I can. Don't cancel me, anybody. Undress these lights. What's the setup look like? Like what's modifier? What's light? What kind of power? Is it just from scratch? If you could just kind of dissect, let's take this
So,
example
so
for this
this
setup.
we created this image up at Westcott headquarters in their studio setup, and these were showing off the new circular modifiers, which work very similarly to these here, because they are overmount on to your 36-inch octaboxes or beauty dishes, and so these mount over the side, and to me, these, if you watch like concerts and stuff like that, you'll see these kind of round looking light fixtures a lot of times behind the concerts. The only thing that was kind of bugging me about this is we could have used these for those top reflectors in this image. So in this day and age now, we would have put the little minis on those top reflectors, whereas those were bare at the time. But
Oh,
so, I
okay.
mean, light wise, if I'm powering these like through some FJ 400s, normally I'm usually something like this. I'm probably shooting at 5.6, probably 200 ISO, and I probably have, I think for these to kind of represent what they are, which is like stage lights, it's good to have a little flare coming out of them. So these are going to be probably around the 7 range on the scale of, I guess what, 1 to 9. So they are, juiced up a little bit more than what you would normally kind of, work your modifier. I mean, I would think my key light is probably, I would say maybe like 5.5, something like that. So they're probably a stop and a half over what my key is on a setup like this. And then the reflector lights and with these minis, you've got so much power. Well, you don't, I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't need as much power to shoot through a reflector with these. So those are probably around on the power scale, probably like at a 3 or so.
Okay.
And that's the beauty of using lights like that, because they are functional at the same time as they are set pieces and kind of dress out your composition in the background, which in this case, we were using these lights to create this stage effect, and using the Westcott Flexi gels, which you can, put right on the ball or the glass dome there on the FJ 400, for an example, and then put this over top of it, and then you get colored light, and with
Ooh.
that smoke and stuff, you build out that environment. So then you can play with color as well as these modifiers, and create all kinds of different things. And that's kind of where I want to take this to where just because someone has these modifiers, their pictures don't look the same as everyone else's. We've got enough going on to where people can be creative and build out kind of layouts and use colors and all kinds of different things to create something unique. And so that's kind of what we had going on here for this shoot. And this is actually on the box, I believe, of some of the packaging for the modifiers.
Oh, that's
So that
awesome.
was cool. And that was another kind of pinch me moment, going up to I think I've got the box right. Actually, I don't. It's another one of those pinch me moments to go up and work with Westcott and creating this product out of nowhere, and then kind of seeing all this stuff come together, and as we move along, and then seeing customers, people that have purchased these mods and are using them on their sets, and how creative some people are being with them. That to me is really where it drives it home. That's kind of the wow moment for me, and seeing what other people are doing and the success they're having using these modifiers in their own setups.
Yeah, and I think that brings up another great point about this is we are in a lighting phase now, or I think it's not a phase, we're here, of really people are owning having lights, the actual light source on camera, where I feel like it was always a thing of like, let's hide the light source. We have to get creative in ways to light it and make sure it wasn't lit. Or there was such an emphasis on getting, keeping the light source out of being a co-star of the shot. And now you see it in music videos. It's like everyone's using, anything from light tubes to giant light sources and playing with how they can use them in the frame. And it's become so accepted. I mean, this looks cool. If you hide that, you lose the whole effect of what this modifier does.
Well, exactly. And that's kind of, the point of trying to make those light sources where they do look unique, and dress them up to where they do work as a set piece.
Mhm.
and not just wheeling a softbox into the background. Although some of those look cool too, like when you do like a wide shot, and I've done that in the past of when you got all this rigging and stuff going on and you do a wide shot to show everything that's going on and with your talent there kind of on the setup. And those are really neat. And I know people enjoy seeing that, on, social media and stuff like that, because that's a big thing now. And that's another thing, we're talking about that. I mean, photographers sharing what they're doing, that's been a whole change of, a whole evolution there, because it used to be so secretive, I guess years and years ago, where people would kind of stumble onto something that might be a hot look for a while, and they wouldn't tell anybody what they were doing. I mean, it's a, top secret. Whereas now, you go onto these really well-known photographers' social media feeds, and it's usually a gallery of images. And then, toward the end, there's either a behind-the-scenes type video or a diagram that breaks it all down.
Yeah. This is an anti-gatekeeping platform, so we like all the secrets exposed when possible. I just love how versatile. I mean, these are such great examples. I'm over here thinking like catch lights, like for content creation, right? That's how, I think one of the things that the ring light and with with LEDs with the shape, with the LED panels and tubes taking off in popularity was once you see the catch lights, and it's not just the regular old boring square or circular catch light, and now it's like, wow, I have this cool like hollow square or a shape.
Right, right. Oh yeah, in the eyes and that type of thing. And I've got one of these minis here on behind me too, and just to kind of show that these things work for, like you said, like content creation for video, as well as what we're talking about, these still shots and all. And that's where I'm really starting to enjoy seeing some of these video creators using them in some of their hype type videos for some sports teams. I just did a shoot with the new volleyball team in Atlanta, and it was pretty neat because I was using the modifiers in a V on our still set, and then next door they had the 3x4 modifiers turned horizontal, and they were using them on the video setup. So that was another kind of moment. Just was kind of pretty wild that I was at this shoot and they were being used on a set that I wasn't even working, and it was a video set, and then I was using them on my set as well. And so that's and, it's just one of those things. It's hard to get a grasp on some of the stuff that is going on, and it's just so cool seeing people use these tools and put them to work in such creative ways.
It is. That's one great thing about the photo community is someone's always going to find some wildly new use for it, and it just helps everybody. I think it expands the creativity and it kind of pushes the boundaries. And a company like Westcott's always been great for kind of just taking it in this direction and saying, how can we make things different? How can we provide more options for creativity? I do want to call out also how smooth you were in turning that. I'm like, man, James, I can't even share a screen without jumping through hoops and giving the audience like 5 warnings for what I'm about to screw up. You're just back there talking, like click, perfectly lined up. I would have had to get up and fix it. A true consummate
Yeah, well,
professional.
if I was really professional, I'd have the remote sitting here where I could turn it on and
You got
off.
the
But
app.
yeah, now I've got to lean back here and work the manual switch. But
See,
yeah,
I love this. This is what I'm talking about, that versatility where, yeah, sometimes you want it more in the frame and it's like the light is like a true co-star, but this gives like that epic moment, like the natural. I mean, maybe
yeah,
the younger generation is gonna have no idea what I'm
yeah.
talking.
But
You're right here with me. This is like,
I'm picking up what you're dropping there for sure.
there you go.
But you can see actually, with this too. So it's a set piece, but then it's also, you know, I'm probably not the best model to show this off, but it's doing something. So you get the functionality in two ways. It's kind of dressing up what we got going on here, and then it's doing something as well. So like if I was doing something where I wanted like a red color, and this is an RGB LED light, so you can dial it in however you want it, and create video setups. So that's kind of I think the next frontier, and people using these. So that's where kind of I just I'm hoping that people see it as a tool that they keep in their bag, and it's something they can pull out when they need it, and it's a way to expand the creativity, their options on set when they want to do something.
I'm gonna take a moment. I'm gonna slide over in my chair. I'm gonna break the fourth wall here. I want to talk to the audience for a moment. What James did in this photo, I want to see more of. I think it's so great in photography. And this is where you look at images and you might not know what it is about something that takes an image to another level, but that restraint, I feel like now everything we see is you have to have that key light source has to be the light that illuminates the subject in the way that we look at. How many people would take a light, they take a big light source and pop it right on the back of the subject. That restraint, letting the lights do their thing to sell. I mean, you look at it and it looks real. It looks like you're in the moment because there's the backside of the player is in the dark. It's just picking up that ambient light. There's that restraint used. So I'm gonna go back here. I'll bring James back in. I just want to tell you, James, that's beautifully done, and I wish we would see
Now,
more of that.
that goes back to yeah, to that image that I took of the player with the stadium lights, behind him pregame,
Mhm.
and in my head, kind of marking down, what that, looked like, and then bringing that onto the set with the light modifiers, and then working it kind of into that same type of direction. And then right here, this is, talking about technology and where we are with lighting and stuff. And this is being able to use the remote on top of my camera, the Westcott remote, and being able to set up the groups and then turn on certain lights, turn off other lights. And the only lights I'm using in this image are the actual modifier lights. And I slow down my shutter speed, so then I get kind of just whatever the ambient light in the building was to fill out the uniform. And so I'm just totally backlighting this, which then again kind of goes back to, harkens back to that backdrop with the strips in it. And that's all the lighting I'm using here. And it kind of gives that really cool effect with some smoke and all that. So you get that um, kind of otherworldly big game type feel. And it
Yeah.
was funny too. So going back to, like, when I was having those guys stand like between those two boards, and then right here, I'm telling him to turn around and point up, like he's pointing, like the stands are right there in front of you. I want you to kind of point up, like, like you're pointing up at the sky in front of the stands. And he looked at me like, what? And then and so then I took a frame, had him turn around, look at the screen, and he was like, "Oh!" And then like the other players around there, they see it too. And so then when it's their turn, they're like, "I want to do some of those shots like he did." And then I don't even have to explain. I was like, just whatever you do after a touchdown or what have you, and do like do those lights like you're doing, that type of thing. So, but then those guys, this is where it goes back to where we talked about at the beginning. Those guys don't forget this type of thing. They leave this, and then they go back to the locker room. And the way we set up these shoots with the football team, they're broken into different position groups that we work through during the week. And so um, they'll like, this guy's at the beginning of the week, he'll go back and start talking to the other guys in the locker room that it wasn't their day to get their pictures done. And so when they show up, they're like, so and so told me about these lights or whatever. Or sometimes I'll have them keyed up on the screen at the photo set, so then when they show up, they can see what we're doing, and it instantly gets them clued in. They're excited about it, and we just roll with it. And things take probably more time than they should, just because the guys want more and more content, but they love it. And I would much rather have that issue than have those guys show up like they're going to the dentist office to get a tooth pulled. So,
It's like the athlete version of holding the stuffed animal above the camera to get the kid to look. It's like
right, yeah, yeah,
you,
yeah.
you
But
lure them in with the bells and whistles.
we've moved way down the road from that.
I
And
know.
so, yeah, but then they, and this translates to like the high school stuff, any dance, so, whatever you want to do with these types of lights. And I love the videos where it shows, the photographer taking the shot, showing, who they're working with, and then they all freak out. And,
Love it.
but that's what makes it memorable. That's what gets you invited back again. That's what wins you clients. That's what, sells you prints, and just spreads word of mouth, and helps you build your business.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't want to disparage any other types of, because you bring up the Falcons image and it's two different types of images. There's a different look. And the fact that, what I'm referring to is how it fits the type of image that it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like a after the game looking up like, you know, we won or great play or something. And then
Right.
the other image, it's like, yeah, the Falcons image, it's like that the lighting was still beautiful in the front. You have all the detail and the muscles popping and everything. And it's like, and that's supposed to be that type of image. That's an image that, you know, when you turn on a football game and they're announcing the starting lineups and the player positions, and that's the image that you show, you know, that's like your showpiece image right there. That's your hero shot, which different uses, different, you know, settings, different, you know, there's different light setups. And I think that's the beauty of how versatile all this stuff is. I have one more video I want to pull up.
Yeah, so this is the this is back to that volleyball shoot I was mentioning. This is the video set that was taking place, and we were in a hotel, and I guess in their kind of banquet area, and they were in the room next to where we were doing the still stuff, and so they were using these are the 3x4 boxes and mods that they were using on LED. I believe these were like Amaran 150s, maybe, or 300s. RGB. So sometimes they were cutting them to red to match the team color, and other times they were this white color here that you see them using here. And I just was so stoked, I guess, to see the results that they were getting, and to hear the cinematographer over there as excited as he was about what they were capturing. And then listening to like the grip guys, like, this is wild, because in the past, all they had access that looked like that were those light banks, like in the back of that pickup truck, that would do the same exact look. And so to pull this off in this type of form factor, it was, and then with the evolution of LED lighting, like I've got like right back here, it just makes things accessible that weren't accessible before. And so that's, just the next evolution. And I'm hoping that more people see it as a way to use these types of modifiers, where you can use them on, video sets, as well as to capture the stills from those. And it's just like you were saying too, it's a matter of figuring out what the composition is, what the creative direction is, and whether or not you are going to use them. Or if you're going to use them, you can use them in all kinds of different ways, with color, without color, small mini mods like this now, or the big ones, or maybe a mix of both, or something maybe kind of just out of frame, where you can kind of cast the light like across. I mean, it's just a matter of being as creative as you want to be. But that's where I'm glad that we have the tools to kind of allow that now.
Mhm. I call dibs on using these out for street photography. I'm a street photographer. I'm sitting here this whole time. I'm listening to you, James. I'm like, how can I repurpose these? How can I be that person from the internet that does something really creative and new? I don't think it's gonna
I want
happen.
to
I know.
see it. I want to make sure you tag the account when you do it.
Yeah, right. Somewhere right now, JC from Westcott he's got his head in his hand. He's like, oh, just no, stop talking. Stop. I
Well,
don't want to
hopefully
see
you're not
that.
sleeping at this point.
We did get a question in from Mike, who is not sleeping. Mike is joining us on YouTube. He's asking about using smoke, fog, haze machines, aerosol cans, pros and cons. How do you trigger them? Is there any best practices? I'm gonna laugh here because I tried to be the smoke machine guy for JC out at one of the trade shows and I failed miserably. So, Mike, this question is for me too. So, yes, do
Well,
tell us what's the trick?
so when I'm looking at smoke, I first have to kind of take into consideration where we are. Like if it's a small space, I'm going to be using something like this, the atmosphere aerosol, straight out of a can type stuff that, will do its thing. And it's not going to like totally fill out the whole space. Because I believe, it works better when you kind of keep that smoke behind your subject. I mean, it comes in front, you start losing, some of the contrast in your image and that type of thing. And so that's where I'll use the smaller source stuff. Other, bigger venues, if you've got some air circulation going, I'll use, just a regular kind of smoke machine you can get, from y'all. I prefer the ones that have a remote, so you can have an assistant off to the side where they're not basically tethered to the smoke machine, because they will come with a little switch that's connected to it. But you can get ones now that have remotes, and so they can be anywhere, or you can operate it yourself and just click a button and it'll put out as much smoke as, as long as you're holding that button down. And those are the two sources that I use. And then you can get different smoke for those smoke machines. And I would kind of ask around, maybe see some photographers using them online, maybe, inquire with them what smoke they use. There's like fast dissipating smoke, and there's smoke that hangs low to the ground. There's all kinds of different smokes you can find. But I would guess probably the faster dissipating would probably be the ones to maybe look at. But that's generally, the two processes I use for smoke. That's kind of my two go-tos.
Okay. And in your experience, we had a question come in from Dave, kind of a follow-up asking about liability issues. Do you have to worry about talent or athletes signing a release, or is there any like of a medical thing with using smoke fog, anything like that?
I don't think so, because all this stuff is like water-based, and
Okay.
it's nothing toxic, anything like that. I mean, I don't think you want to, sit there and hook yourself up to the smoke machine. But no, I don't think there's any. I mean, don't quote me on this, but I don't think there's any liability. I've never heard of that.
Okay.
And the goal is that they think the pictures are so cool. That's the last thing on their mind anyway. But no, I've never had it negatively affect anyone on set either. So if that was the case, that would be a big problem. But as much, I've done, I don't know how many photo shoots using different smoke and stuff like that, and never had any kind of problem like that. So I mean, it's something to maybe bring that up on the front end if you got clients that you're worried about. And another thing too, like if you're in a gym or something like that, you might want to just kind of check with who you're, where you are for smoke alarms. That would be more of my worry than any kind of, I mean, someone having a health issue from it. But
Mhm.
that would be my thing, is just making sure that you're in regulation with whatever their smoke, um, I guess, alarm system would
Yeah.
do. And so like when we did the stuff with the volleyball crew, we were in a hotel, and there was, the agency made sure that the hotel was aware of what we were doing. Like we were gonna have smoke on both sets, and so that there wouldn't be any kind of issue with that. So that's just that would be the one thing to take into account in my book.
Yeah. It'll be like going to the bank in the 90s when the bank teller is smoking a cigarette as they're depositing your
Yeah, or
check.
back when we had to fly in the 90s and you couldn't get out of an airplane, and
Same
everyone's
thing.
everyone smelled like a pack of Marlboros when you got off the airplane.
My mind's going
Good
places it
times.
shouldn't be going. Products that we don't need to release. We're not releasing any. No, there's going to be nothing like that. We're not going to create that app. Maybe that's the shoot I'll do. I'll start lighting movie scenes. But
Yeah.
James, this was awesome, man. I think it gave such a great look into something that, like I said, you kind of go into it, or at least I do, thinking, okay, how many uses can you possibly get out of it? And I think this was great to see that there are a number of uses, both professional and amateur, and flipping it back around to where it's not you can use it, like I said, even for the catch lights, or how you did it with the hockey player. It's still a light source with a modifier that kind of changes enough to maybe you want that reflection, maybe you want that catch light.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've used it at the highest levels of, use them in advertising. Like I said, Under Armour's put them on their social feeds, use them to promote uniforms. I've done it with professional teams, all the way, to just basically individual photo shoots. And it's just a matter of, I think it's not something you use like on every shoot, but it's something that it's nice to have in your kit if you wanted to, if you get somewhere. Or I've talked to photographers too that are going to be set up outdoors, and if it's bad weather, then they got to move indoors. And then this is something like, these modifiers give them a whole nother kind of wow factor when they go indoors. When it kind of starts as something, negative because of bad weather, and you go in and you create, some images using these light modifiers that, people haven't ever seen before, and just wow, your the talent and your clients. And that's kind of like, where you're overcoming something, a bad situation, and using them in that manner. But yeah, I think they're, and my goal is just kind of create a creative tool that can go in, our kits as photographers, and pull them out when we want to use them. And then, just be able to use them in creative ways to create images, and then on set experiences for whoever we're working with, that they're not going to forget. And that's kind of, sometimes when I'm using them, I'm doing just regular, photos, and then I'll have a secondary set, because you can have, two of these, with the modifiers, whatever, and like a key light. Sometimes I use a boom a lot for my key light, and I will roll it maybe a couple feet,
Mm.
and then have two light modifiers with maybe a black backdrop. And so then I'll take the talent off of like a white seamless or a white sweep, doing, a really clean image, and then move them over where they've got to walk like 10 feet. And I just have to rotate and roll one light. And then I've got a whole nother setup, a secondary setup. And then that's kind of where, like I was mentioning earlier, referencing earlier, if you're selling prints and you want to, have more of a catalog for people to purchase prints, or just wowing your clients with a secondary setup, something that you're adding on that they might not have asked for in the front end, but then it could turn out to be something that they use instead of what they came in initially thinking that they're going to use. And so that's, I think, just some way that you can endear yourself with your clients in a whole another sense, as being that, very creative photographer that we love to work with.
Definitely. I mean, I'm thinking about it as a baseball dad and who is also a photographer. I'm about to start working a side business after I'm done coaching games. It's like, but like seriously, it's like, again, I was joking about back in the day when I was playing Little League and how bad the pictures were. It's like
Yeah.
it's a selling point where parents never we're getting beat every which way to buy pictures here and there for every different kind of event. But this is like you see these pictures and it's super cool. And it's something where it's like, all right, you want something memorable. You want something that makes it look like they're professionally done images.
Right. And let's face it too, like when these kids are doing their pictures, a lot of times it's because the parents are making them do the pictures. And then that's where, you have these cool lights going on, and then you show the kids, what's going on, and then they're excited. And
Yeah.
then so it's a win-win. And then they're wanting the pictures themselves. And like when I work with these college teams and stuff, one of their big questions when they leave is like, when do we get these? I need these for my Instagram, or whatever, my socials, or whatever they're doing. And so that's when, like I said, I mean, that's when I know that I'm doing something, that's connecting with the audience. And that's as cool as it gets, is when those guys are excited to get what you created with them on the set.
Totally. That is the look at you timed it perfectly. I'm like, you dropped a gem right at almost 4 p.m. on the dot.
Well,
I'm
I'm
like,
just
no, it
excited too
is.
that B&H actually sells these things, to have a product and
There we
B&H.
go.
That's
I'll take
that's
20.
another pinch me moment. So I'm hoping that we move enough to where it stays.
No, this is great. And I think for all the people out there and not just sports photographers, it's like we said, it's the versatility. You can use them for a lot of different things. I think music videos,
Yeah.
where, music videos, you literally you slap these things on. It's like, I actually want to test out how I want to see how strong I never use my modeling light on my FJ400s, but I'm like, even like if you have a modeling light and you throw one of these on, I mean, I like the fact that they're super, you know, they're they're small, they're easy. It's like
Yeah. Well, and
pliable.
especially if you're using the like reflector. I mean, this is the right off of the FJ400 right here. And this form
That's
factor, you
awesome.
don't need much light for this to work as a set piece.
Yeah.
And so, just like something like this, I mean, that definitely would. And, let me stress too, like you can go to the ProLight Mods Instagram and see other examples. And I repost people's images as they tag the account, and can keep those flowing, and then add some to the gallery there too, so people can get creative ideas there. I love when I see them in different setups, different scenarios outside of just the sports world. I mean, that's where, these are kind of stage light type lights. And that's when we, like, if you look at the packaging and stuff, where we've got, different setups here, to where you can see, none of these were sports related. I mean, you've got dance and stuff like that.
Love it.
And so that's, just trying to open up different avenues for creativity.
Awesome. Well, Pro Light Mods coming to street photography in New York City this summer. James,
I
this
want
was
JC to be
awesome.
on that set.
JC, I don't think he'll be a part of it. I think he'll be like, you're crazy. I want nothing to do with this. But show me the pictures. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. We'll see. Super, 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 super grateful to have you on, James. This was
Oh, thank you.
awesome. Thank you for all you do. You have a ton of experience in the professional world that inspires those of us on my side of things. And this really shows that, look, it isn't about the gear, but the gear can help so much, taking you to that next level. Huge thank you, of course, to James, entire Westcott team, Mr. JC Carey over there, doing a lot of great things. And of course, to all of our viewers out there, we thank you guys for engaging, for watching. You can always get this and all of our other free content recorded live here and on our YouTube page at B&H Event Space on there. James, any closing words? Where can we find your work? Hit us with the
You can
goods.
find me online
Oh,
at
there we
Quantz
go.
Photo. This guy's been at my feet for the last 30 minutes, driving me nuts.
So
But
patient.
yeah, quantsphoto.com is my website. At what is it? Quantz Photo on Instagram, and then at ProLight Mods on Instagram as well. That's basically where I orbit these days.
Awesome. Well,
And
thank you for the.
thanks to everyone that tunes in. Then I'm on YouTube as well, Quantz Photo on YouTube.
There we go. YouTube star, everybody. Don't let him be humble. YouTube star. But James, I want to thank you again, man. We'll get those links dropped into the comments on YouTube so that people can follow that, or into the description there. But huge thank you to James Quantz again, and to the entire Westcott team, all of our viewers. This has been another edition of the B&H Event Space. Catch y'all next time.